now I'm going to invite the panelists for the first panel to join me on stage. The first panel is titled The Energy Dilemma, Powering Sustainable Data Centers in a Cloud-Driven World. So please, all the panelists join us so that we can start. So on the screen, you have the distinguished panelists who agreed to join us today to contribute to the discussion around the energy dilemma, which I referred to 10 minutes ago. That's a big part of the discussion around AI data centers, how to actually meet the energy requirements. I don't think that any of the gentlemen would object if I started with the lady on the panel. That's always a safe choice. So I'm going to start with Elisabetta, if I may. And she comes from Khazna Data Center, which happens to be a prominent operator, a UAE-based operator of data centers, and at the bleeding edge of these kinds of development. So we're in good company, definitely. My first question to you would be, I mean, your mandate at Khazna is ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. That's a critical function within data centers in general because of the regulatory compliance and the issues required for environmental impact and so on. So my first question to you, and I'm going to ask everyone to keep their answers, please. We have a full panel, so maybe 2-3 minutes per answer so that we can get through the panel in an acceptable way. How does Khazna integrate ESG principles into their business planning and site selection and development activities? How prominent is that? Does it start early in the process? Does it come towards the middle of the process? What kind of restrictions are you able to put in place in order to guide that development? Just give us a glimpse of what goes into planning the expansion from the ESG perspective.
Absolutely. As you were just explaining, Khazna is an operator when it comes to data center, but we also design and build data center that allow us to actually cover the full spectrum when it comes to ESG and ensure that we really integrate the sustainability part starting from the beginning. We have done this work and this job for the past 10 years. So in the past 10 years, we have learned a lot, and we have learned many things that have changed the way in which we design and we operate our data centers. Probably just to simplify and to ensure that we provide concrete examples, one of our latest commissioned data center in Abu Dhabi is one of the best examples of how you integrate this all sustainability part in the feedback loop. Our AUH6 data center is a 31.8 megawatt data center of IT power capacity. And it has been built and designed thinking about sustainability. What does it mean? It has been designed with a modular design. So we have been ensuring that all the parts could have been thought in advance, reducing significantly the amount of waste and also the amount of resources used on site. But we have also designed a climate resilient type of data center. It's really able to withstand really harsh climates and sandstorm and heat waves. And this enables us to prepare for the future. At the same time, we have thought about the energy power as well. We have a 7 megawatt solar panel that are feeding directly our data center, and also we have looked into AHC as well. If you think about this project, is a huge project. It was more than 5.5 million hours of work. We didn't have lost time injuries throughout the whole process. So this is just an example of how we are thinking about sustainability across all the life cycle of our data center, and we ensure that starting from the design, we can create something that is then efficient and our clients can use in the best way.
I'm going to go now to Mr. Lenihan from Zola Electric, if I may. My understanding is that Zola focuses on off-grid solar solutions. And I'm curious to highlight what role does this off-grid solar solutions play in meeting the demands of AI data centers in general, because this is all the craze and all the focus is on AI data center. Given the fact that there is this general reputation that solar is intermittent, it's not entirely available all the time, and so on. So I'm curious from your perspective, how credible can you assign a priority for such off-grid solar solutions to a prospect who's developing data centers around the Middle East and Africa region?
Well, one, thank you for having me here. Just to define what we do at Zola, we're an energy access technology company. We operate in the energy access markets. These are markets where the energy source is unreliable and unaffordable. It's a worldwide problem. 80 countries around the world suffer from it. And about 3 billion people and all of the infrastructure required to supply those 3 billion people suffer from it as well. We're not an off-grid company. We are an energy access company. And what I mean by that is we operate in markets that have grids. They just tend to be poor grids. And that's kind of the core problem. The core problem is the energy architecture in these markets. We were welcomed earlier, we saw the map. There's no data center capacity in the global south. There's no data center capacity in the global south because there aren't we talked about applications and maybe usage, but it's really because also there's no energy architecture to support it. If you look at the energy architecture in the global south, in Africa and the Middle East, which we're talking about here today, you have a bad grid and you have it backed up by backup sources of intermittent energy, distributed renewable energy resources. It's not integrated, it's not smart, it is not even enough capability to power the countries today. It definitely isn't enough capability to power the countries when data centers are looking to be built. What we do at Zola is we bring energy technology to automate that infrastructure. So we have hardware and software that integrates that architecture and looks to deliver reliable, affordable energy. We do that now in 10 countries, in urban settings, rural settings, and we do it for every application in the last mile. As it relates to data centers, the capability of our architecture today would not be able to support a data center today. It will in the future. It is network architecture. But today what you're seeing, and I think this is something to think about from a Middle East and Africa perspective, is data centers are becoming more distributed. There's latency issues with everything being built in the United States and supporting the world. There's latency issues here, which is driving, for example, telecommunications companies to put data capability, analytical AI capability at the edge level. Well, that edge level doesn't require the level of energy and resourcing that a large data center does. And that is the type of use case that Zola Electric will look to enable with its network architecture.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go now to Mr. Alexey from Cummins. Well, Cummins is not exactly a household name, but around technical installations, Cummins is fairly well known. We have seen Cummins equipment in hotels and outside venues and industrial complexes around the world. I'm curious, how did Cummins look at the data center opportunity? What kind of specific solutions that you needed to actually develop to meet the specific requirements of data center operators in general, and maybe specifically commenting on the AI data center, which is a unique species within the landscape, if you will. So if you can share some insights about how a venerable brand and a very established brand looked at this opportunity and what kind of innovations that you guys have developed.
So Cummins is a brand, as a technology vendor. We developed and installed already the power solutions to power up more than around 30 gigawatt power globally, specifically for data center applications. And as a vendor, we have our power systems equipment, engines and generator set, which is capable to back up the AI and standard cloud data centers. We understand that the importance right now, the main importance and the main trend is to work on sustainability factors And as you rightly mentioned during the welcome speech which you made, there are not only water usage efficiencies or power usage efficiencies coefficients anymore. I was checking the other day online, it was like multiple pages of these factors, like material recyclability, energy efficiency, combined efficiency. It's like the whole list. And Cummins, we are not only the engine manufacturer, we also playing in the role of green hydrogen manufacturer. We are in the field of developing a fuel cell and testing them for the major players in the data center field in US and Canada. We are also the full scope green hydrogen infrastructure provider. We also playing with technologies such as electrolyzers and battery storages. So we are aiming to support the sustainability trends, which are globally we see as emerging. And of course, in future, we see a lot of big players and customers converting their sites, the data center, to more sustainable, accepted facilities. And regulation is pushing up really hard. Not only we have our emissionized products, but also inside the generator set and engine, we have an initiative called Material Recyclability Initiative. So we are working on each part of the engine to make sure that we can recycle it later on after the lifetime of the equipment is ended. We work with several contractors and consultants on these initiatives, especially in Africa, Middle East as well. People like from Mainhard and people like from Sudlos are our partners, and we are working towards implementing this solution in standard cloud and AI data centers. And we are proud to work with Khazna as well on some of those projects. Thank you so much to be our good partner in UAE, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai, and also hopefully in Saudi. And yeah, we take these leaps, I would say, not even steps, because industry is growing double exponentially these days, and we are working towards these new solutions with our partners. And I also wanted to mention there is no anymore like competitive landscape in this game. It's like a smart partnership landscape. We can work together to provide this solution with all of the panelists, and together we can make this bright future in AI-based data centers. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you, sir. I'm going to go now to Mr. Mohamed from Karm Solar, if I may. Karm Solar is a private generator or private producer of electricity, and the natural place to start would be what kind of priority does Karm Solar give to this digital infrastructure sector in terms of data centers, either for co-location or data center AI? Does it feature in your business planning? Do you give it attention? And part of that question, of course, is what are the benefits and challenges of using solar energy? If I'm a data center operator and I'm considering using solar energy as my primary source of energy to power up my data center, what goes into that decision, and what sort of issues I need to be aware of when making the decision to run my data center? I'm not going to say 100% solar, but as much as possible.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here and for the very informative welcome note. It was great to hear all these interesting facts. There is the traditional approach to trying to solve the energy problem, which is the on-grid solutions, on-site solar installations. And then as things were becoming a bit more complicated and we found issues with the grid, we started working on more hybrid solutions. So we've actually piloted 2 projects in Egypt that are PV diesel BESS hybrids that have actually reached a point of penetration where they're running 100% on just solar and battery energy storage systems. However, this will always be an issue, is that you will not be able to reach a level of penetration of just purely solar without an upgrade to the infrastructure. What we try to do is we try to vertically integrate as much as possible. So we first started off by just being a power generation company, and then we quickly realized that if we wanted to see the progress and the adoption uptake we needed to actually invest in the infrastructure ourselves. And that's what led us to become a utility provider of some sort. So we would not only invest in the power generation assets, but we would actually build and construct our own internal grids, our medium voltage equipment, and even up to the high voltage equipment and commissioning to connect to the national grid. What we're seeing in Egypt is an example of a program that might be very interesting for data centers, and definitely they are a massive focus for us. We have actually approached a lot of the data center providers here in Egypt because the government is now allowing a P2P wheeling scheme, so private to private, which is the first of its kind. So before that, as a power generator from renewable sources, you were not able to connect and sell on the grid remotely. You actually had to be on site. But now the government is allowing you for a pilot phase to be able to dispatch the energy in one area and then use it somewhere else. And this will be the first step towards a sustainable solution, but it will require massive investments, not just from the public sector, but also from the private sector. What we're trying to do on the technology side of things is to tokenize the kilowatt hour. So what's happening right now is you're hearing a lot of these great projects in green hydrogen and being able to deploy sustainable amount of assets. And the issue that's coming up is that the kilowatt hour needs to be traced from the source to the point of consumption. And unless you have that on site, you're always going to have the issue of not being able to find land available, because you're going to have the data centers in the middle of the urban cities, you're going to have the green hydrogen plants next to the ports. So how do we find a way to trace that kilowatt hour that was generated in one area for it to be consumed somewhere else? And we are working on, through a subsidiary of ours, a company called Sand, on being able to actually tokenize the kilowatt hours similar to the blockchain methodology, to be able to deploy assets somewhere else in the region, and through the beautifully stated term of energy architecture, working together hand in hand with the public and private sector to dispatch assets geographically in areas where they're needed, but to claim the credit for these kilowatt hours somewhere else where they're being consumed. And it's going to be a marriage of both. So hopefully on that front, we're able to make some progress, and I'm very keen to look at what happens in the near future.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, sir. My next question is for Mr. Ahmed Faris from Mitsubishi. Again, a well-established brand needs no introduction, Mitsubishi Electric. I'm curious to, when you approach an RFP from a data center operator or a development, or project under development, I should say, what specific requirements do data center operators mandate for their selection of a generator that is different from a typical industrial implementation? So what specific requirements have you seen in RFPs? Are you working on? Because that's going to actually shed some light on sort of the contracting process for the whole complicated project.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here. It's my pleasure. Actually, Mitsubishi has launched the 3000 kVA 1 year ago, and it's very important for data center users as they always ask for higher power with lower space. Also, we sure that we can serve them well, as a strong demand in power nowadays we see in data centers power demand. Also, our MGS is certified by TIA 942, as well as well-known uptime certification, so we can serve a wide range of customers, because some customers asking for uptime facility certified, and some customers ask for TIA certifications. Also, MGS has added new two lineup of power rating, is DCCP and DCC and the CP power rating. Both are comply with ISO, and both are meets uptime requirement. Both ratings means that you can working generator on 100% average load, and with unlimited running time. As we are moving for sustainable green energy, MGS can work on other type of fuel like HVO and biodiesels. This can help us to reach sustainable and green energy. Now Mitsubishi in Japan are testing 100% hydrogen engines, and it will be ready for sales by 2026. Incomplete to the requirement of data center needs. We have some needs of data center users. First is the area. We need to have a power ratio and saving some area. Also reliability and a quick start for the power generation. So in Mitsubishi, we can achieve all of these goals.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't know about the audience, but I'm having a great time. There is this buffet of really delicious information being presented, but I think I'm in the mood for some dessert. For that, I'm going to go to Mr. Hany from Schneider Electric. You're the dessert because we're finishing round one of the questions. So again, Schneider needs no introduction. It's a global brand. I think you guys operate in over 100 countries. So and probably one of the largest in the business. And you're not an equipment provider. You provide management systems and consultation and professional service and so on. So the question within that capacity would be, how is Schneider Electric advising or helping data center operators meet their sustainability goals? We started the panel by Elisabetta highlighting how ESG flows into the decision-making and selection criteria. So I'm curious as to a company like Schneider, what role do you play in order to help your data center client meet their own sustainability goals, either self-imposed or mandated by regulatory oversight?
Okay, thank you. Acting toward this sustainability is not new for Schneider Electric. Started 15 years ago. We established our sustainability parameter to track and report our sustainability initiatives. We call this program Schneider Sustainability Impact, SSI, which drives our sustainability action and impact towards the environment and the economy and the society. And we are proud to be ranked as the world's most sustainable company. So regarding the exams, we have our SF6 free medium voltage switchgear, which doesn't use SF6 gas as an insulator. Instead, it uses pure air and vacuum interruption. This guarantees less pollution in the air and more sustainability. This number one. Another example, like we have our green premium label in all Schneider Electric products. This label is a unique sign to our commitment to compliance, transparency, and sustainability performance. When any product of Schneider has this logo, it guarantees that this product complies to most up-to-date environmental regulations. And we have other examples for sustainability in our products, like e-conversion mode, utilizing our WUE, water usage effectiveness, utilizing the carbon footprint of our equipment. So we have a lot of examples in the sustainability journey in Schneider Electric. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go to Bill again, if I may. And in the answer to the first question, you highlighted the fact that you operate mostly in areas where there is a grid, but the grid is not reliable, does not have universal coverage, and so on. So within that environment, what priority would you assign to energy storage or BESS solutions in an overall energy solution for a data center operating in markets that are not primary markets with reliable grids?
Yeah. Boy, that's a great question and gets to the heart of what we at Zola Electric are advocating here. So, one, we don't think about applications. When I say an application, I don't discern a difference between a a hospital which has critical energy needs and a data center that has critical energy needs, or a home that has critical energy needs. I think about it, and we think about it as one network, as delivering reliable, affordable, community-level electrification. You asked the question around what's the key feature or element of battery storage. Just again, bottom line for us, in our markets, this model of centralized grid with utility governance plus backup hardware, which is what every storage device is today. It's a backup hardware device. And again, one of our biggest investors is Tesla Energy. I love the Tesla Powerwall, but it is a dumb backup system. It's hardware. Our strong belief is the key element to community level electrification, reliable, affordable energy in our markets is integration. It's digitization. It's control of all of it, and it's integration of all of it. It's network architecture. So to me, it's less about size or about battery technology or solar panel technology or even energy source. It's about the integration and the digitization of all of it. That integration and digitization, if it's done correctly, it's not done correctly today because it's not integrated, will drive reliability of energy. It will drive efficiency of energy production and distribution, and that will deliver reliable, affordable energy to the masses, including data centers.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, sir. I'm going to go to Elisabetta again. I understand you had a background in fashion, but we're not going to use that against you today. You're among friends. But the point is about the ESG function. In any other industry, ESG is a nice to have function because whatever the line of business, it's not really integral to the operation of the business. However, your current position at a major regional player in data centers makes ESG integral to the operation of that business. So my question is, how much of the activities that ESG executes within Khazna data center is driven by regulatory mandate? In other words, we have to do it because the regulator is going to penalize us if we don't, versus we'll do it because it's good for the bottom line, it's good for business, it actually makes us competitive and so on. I'm curious because that's one of the very few industries that ESG is just a key enabler is data centers compared to other industries. So if you can shed some light, because across the board in the Middle East, we don't see a lot of mature ESG functions within corporations. So we're going to take advantage of your presence here. And again, my question is how much of that is being a good corporate citizen and how much of that is good for business?
Absolutely. And you might be surprised how much fashion is regulated. It's one of the most regulated environment in as a business, and that's interesting, actually the transition into data centers. Regulation are needed, regulation are key, because regulation allows you to play by the same rules. And this creates kind of a playing field where everybody has kind of the same rules of the games. However, what I think is that it cannot be just regulation. If you just do whatever is mandate right now, you would do kind of, I would say, the bare minimum. What I think as Khazna we are doing well, and where we are pushing a lot from an ESG perspective is really through the innovation piece that come with that, because it allows us to be good citizenship at the same time, but also create business value. Just think, for instance, like to some of our data centers right now. They have been designed in the past to be also artificial intelligence ready. So whenever like some of the clients came in and asked to have this data center used for AI, we could easily retrofit those data centers. There was no mandate for that. It was innovation. It was looking forward in the future and allowed the business to save money, but also to save resources. We are doing the same with other innovations such as cooling and so on. So it's very important that we follow the regulation. Of course, this is the baseline, but we need to build on that to ensure that we create business value and we create differentiation. And this is what we are integrating in Khazna. This is why, like, one of the things I'm working on is it's really like a strategic approach of 360 to ensure that we are really doing the next step. We're not just doing whatever he's asked us to do.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Mr. Mohamed Sama from Cummins Solar. How do you scale solar power generation business? I mean, it's just a matter of straightforward, more land, more panels equals more output, or are there technological advances in the efficiency of panels or maybe different kinds of materials that would actually make a step change in the amount of energy that you can get per square meter or square kilometer? I'm curious as to how to actually that business would scale to meet this. Again, in the introduction, we mentioned people are resorting to nuclear modular reactors, so that apparently the need is there. But solar is unique in its requirement for land, if I would imagine. So I'm just curious, being an expert in the business, how would you scale solar power generation beyond just adding more square kilometers and having more panels stuffed as tightly as possible?
Well, that's a loaded question. Because it's in our name. Our name is Cummins Solar. However, you'd be surprised to know that we're somewhat technology agnostic. So I echo actually what Bill was saying in the sense that we are not necessarily focusing on just solar solutions for the generation of power. We're looking at other ways that we can essentially even store energy indirectly, either through water pumping or through the agri sector or through water bottling and export. It is always going to be a challenge. There is a linear improvement in the efficiency of panels. There is a linear improvement in liquid state batteries right now. Maybe with the introduction of solid state batteries, we might see a leap in being able to store a more significant amount of energy that's currently being curtailed on the grid. But the solution is twofold. You don't solve by deploying more assets, you solve by integrating better with the grid. So what we're doing is we're finding areas in the Egyptian grid today that need rehabilitation so that we can deploy more assets there that will enable us to diverge the energy somewhere else into the region. And without undertaking that responsibility of being an infrastructure investor and actually investing in decentralized solutions and tackling industries as a whole, such as the agri sector, which is heavily reliant today on diesel for the production of agri products, this is the most realistic way today to take a significant leap in higher adoption and utilizing the area in the desert that we have today, which is significant but is not in any way connected to the grid. How can we operate it as its own entity without needing to rely on the connection of the grid? And maybe that comes from a mix between smarter energy systems, energy architecture, network architecture. Maybe it comes from decentralized solutions. Maybe it comes from a mix of PV diesel hybrid solutions. We're working on all fronts really. I think we've maybe established 5 or 6 different business units in the last 3 years just with new products that can aim to improve the adoption of energy-based solutions. And hopefully, with the regulatory changes, the technology improvement, and the different business models, and most importantly, not greenwashing the projects. So they need to be feasible. At the end of the day, you can try and convince anyone to buy a kilowatt hour from you at $5 or $6 or $7 cents, but if it's not feasible, they're not going to take it. So working with the financing institutions, working on smart ways to levelize the cost of energy, that's how we come up with a way to slowly improve the adoption, increase the uptake, and decentralize the grid so that there's not one congested area.
Understood. Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to go to Mr. Ahmed Faris again. From Mitsubishi's electric perspective, what does the future look like in terms of data center infrastructure? Are we all still going to have diesel generators 5-10 years from now, or we're going to switch completely to fuel cells? Given the R&D that you're currently doing and the developments that you're working on, how does the future data center electrical infrastructure would look like 5-10 years from now?
Actually, Mitsubishi has developed a new E-blocks technology. This E-blocks technology is a maneuvering between solar energy and diesel generators. to reach an efficient operation for the users. In my opinion, I see that diesel generator is still the reliable and robust and cost-effective solution until now for even for data center or for other applications. For Egypt, the market maybe in 2030 may be duplicated due to the duplication of infrastructure up to 2030. Until now, I see that still diesel generator is the key master for standby applications and for data centers applications.
I'm going to go now to Mr. Hany again from Schneider Electric. We mentioned that Schneider is diversified across the value chain and has multiple business units there. If within that professional services capacity, if you're going to advise a startup data center or an investment firm that is looking to fund a new data center, what kind of strategies would you advise them to adopt when planning their environmental and sustainability management framework from experience, from the accumulated experience that you guys have gained across multiple projects? So they're planning a new project, let's say it's a medium-sized data center. What 2 or 3 pieces of advice would you give them to actually prioritize environmental and sustainability practices in their new project?
We as a Schneider Electric, as the most integrated data center vendor in the market, we have around 95% of all the data center equipment, be it from the power systems, starting from the medium voltage systems down to the rack PDUs. We have the mechanical systems starting from the 2.4 megawatt chilled water systems up to the rack mounted crack units, plus the umbrella of the EcoStruxure software for the EcoStruxure Grid, EcoStruxure IT, all the EcoStruxure umbrella. So I mentioned before some examples for the power solutions. Another solutions we may attack here, like the mechanical solutions. We have the chilled water systems utilizing the high temperature degrees for the water and air in the data center. This allows us to utilize more free cooling operations, which minimizes the power usage. You mentioned before the PUE, the power usage effectiveness in the data center. The PUE is power usage, the whole power that enters the facility divided by the power allocated to the IT. So the great bulk of this power, which is not allocated to the IT, is the mechanical systems. So increasing the temperature of the chilled water system, this allows us to utilize the free cooling system. This number 1. Number 2, it gives us more cooling capacity in the same footprint, which utilizes our solution for the PUE. Another example that we use here is the, utilizing the green refrigerant, like the HFO-based refrigerants, R1234ZE and YF, which has single-digit GWP, instead of using the normal and traditional R410 with more than 2,000 GWP and the R1234. So utilizing these green refrigerants also guarantees more sustainable goals for the data center.
Thank you, sir. My last question, well, not my last, I'll have a follow-up question, but then I'll give the audience a chance. To Alexey, you commented about new developments at Cummins, fuel cell, as well as the adoption of metrics beyond PUE in terms of measuring the environmental impact of data center operation. My question is about these new developments. Fuel cell, you mentioned an example. We spoke about nuclear as another example. How reliable are these? I mean, the key criteria for selecting an energy infrastructure provider or an equipment vendor would be, number one, in a data center environment would be reliability. How reliable are these new technologies? Are they proven in terms of trials or they are still experimental? Are they on par with the traditional technologies or they still have to be augmented or complemented by others? And where do you see this going, again, 5-10 years from now?
So you touch about a really interesting point. I don't think we will have a lot of time to discuss that in really details, because we are really detail-oriented solution provider, and I see that so far the hydrogen infrastructure, it's like a proof of concept, and so far it's capex not feasible, but in common future a regulation will take its turn on it, and we will see more and more projects on that with SMRs, small modular reactors, and also connected as a prime to hydrogen, hydrogen-generated power. And we see right now it's happening with some developers, and like Apple, for instance. You can see their reports. They are playing with numbers like carbon off-grid, carbon offset. They are generating some of the electricity by renewables somewhere else. And then in the same time, they're reducing this CO2s and NOx's from their report. That we will see. And it's going to be like the energy trend from now. But of course, we will see more of the direct connected on-site generations, especially for the AI data centers, and especially for phases of machine learning, like inference space, for instance, and deeper machine learning previously than inference phase. But deployment of AI, still it will be with the gensets. And still we see that probably the next step would be to connect something with the BSS, battery systems. And that's like the phase which we will see within the next 5 to 10 years. Majority of products which we are producing as well, they are working in HVO as well. Hydrogenated vegetable oil as a sustainable diesel fuel, drop-in. As my colleagues also was mentioning that. The full spectrum of products from Cummins are also capable to do it. And we will see more of sustainable fuels coming into play. That would be the shortest answer I could think of right now.
Thank you for that. Before I wrap up, anybody from the audience would like to ask the panelists any questions? We have a question there. Well, say the question, I'll repeat it in the mic. Hold on, there's a mic here. Sorry.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Ziad Nasr, Johnson Controls Arabia. I have a question for Mr. Hany. You've talked about the different solutions that Schneider provide when it comes to cooling in data centers. I have a question related to the in-row installed crack units and the differences between them and what we have heard in the recent years about fan wall units. When it's better to use the in-row solutions or the normal crack units compared to the fan wall units that's been recently launched in the industry. Thank you.
Okay, the fan wall units, it's dedicated to the hyperscale data centers with megawatt capacities. While in the in-row cooling, we have the perimeter cooling and we have the in-row cooling. The perimeter cooling, from its name, it's on the perimeter of the room. It gives us more cooling capacity than the in-row cooling because due to its size that can reach up to 3 and 3.5 meters footprint. So it gives us more cooling capacity than the in-row unit. But each one of these solutions, it has its own pros and cons. For the in-row cooling, it has better cooling efficiency because it's beside the load itself, so you don't have any cooling losses in your system, and then it utilizes your power usage effectiveness as well. For the in-row cooling as well, it gives you more cooling capacity due to there is no losses in the external pressure under the raised floor and all the blockage under the raised floor. This is for the in-row cooling. While in the perimeter cooling, you have, as we mentioned, higher cooling capacities for the footprint of, due to its footprint. This number one. Number two, for the maintenance and operation, it's away from the IT equipment. You can do your maintenance and operation, and you can as well put these crack units and cry units in a mechanical corridor to utilize your data center area and not allow any technicians for cooling technicians to be inside the white space. Regarding the fan walls, we have two families for them, in-room family and in-corridor family. These cooling capacities for the fan walls, they can reach up to 400 kilowatt cooling capacity with the chilled water systems, which you cannot achieve with the in-row cooling and the normal crack and the cry units.
I see. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have other questions from the audience? Okay. Last question, 30 seconds each panelist, the same question. The focus of the conference is MEA, Middle East and Africa, which is the emerging market space. So within that space, do you think the future in terms of development of the data center will be a large number of 5 to 10 megawatt data centers per market? Or do we adopt the US or Asia model of 4 or 5 data centers, each like 100 and 200? So I'm going to start with you, and then from closest to furthest, same answer. What do you think would be the future deployment of data centers in the emerging markets?
I think the requirement for higher power data center is much more than a lower data center in power.
So larger
demand.
data centers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we notice that a strong demand in a higher power data center.
Okay, thank you. Elisabetta?
There is indeed this request for higher IT power data center, but at the same time, there is also like a need for the cloud data center. So these two words we don't think that are gonna exclude themselves, but they are grown exponentially together.
Okay. Mohamed?
I mean, it's not really my area of expertise, but if I were to take a wild guess, I would imagine it would follow the trend that you would have seen in energy demand. So you would have centralized, massive, gigawatt facilities in certain areas, and then you'll see a modular approach to what Elisabetta was mentioning, specific needs for decentralized setups that would have more smaller scale energy demands, and this would fit the energy mapping that we're trying to do, and a way to mitigate this demand on energy.
Understood. Alexey?
There are lots of restrictions on the power grid and upstream and downstream infrastructure, and also the lead times, which will lead to the demand on the not a larger scale, but more like a small modular and edge solutions, starting from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatt, and like for the big players who plays with AI and hybrid cloud, we will see a lot of 16 megawatt, 22, 21.8 megawatt solutions, and that I think it's going to be the top.
Understood. Mr. Hany?
We need both small data centers for the edge solutions to avoid the connectivity and the latency issues. This is number one. And we need the hyperscalers and the megawatt data centers to collect all these edge solutions inside this main data center.
Okay, and for the day's final wisdom words, we go to Bill, so take it away, sir.
Yeah, my fellow panelists know a lot more about this than I do, so I'm glad I got to go last. But I do think ultimately it follows very much energy architecture. 100 years ago, it was all centralized, large scale. Mm-hmm. We've now learned that that is not the optimal construct, that distributed alongside centralized or even all distributed is optimal. I think data centers ultimately follow it for the same reasons, and because applications are different. Some big capacity needs and small capacity needs.
Understood. Again, I'll wrap up. I wholeheartedly thank everyone in the panel for their contribution. I thank the audience for listening. I think the following session would be actually none other than Mr. Bill himself outlining what Zola Electric is up to, so stick around for that. And again, thank you. We have a full program today until, I think, 3 in the afternoon. Make sure to follow the agenda, and see you in the next session. Thank you.